Welcome everybody to A Blaze of Story featuring David Garlick. David Garlick is a retired secondary school principal who worked as an educator for 33 years before retiring in 2016. Thank you for your service. In reaction to COVID, he became a writer in 2020. He published 2 collections of short stories and a series called The Principal Chronicles, which he calls pseudo-fiction and semi-autobiographical. The 3rd book in the series will be published later this year. He was long listed in the Lester Wrights Short Story Competition in 2025. That story appearing in the Dolly Press anthology that same year. Garlick was born and raised in the West End of Windsor, West Side, the best side. He considers himself lucky to not have only attended Forster Secondary School. He studied, taught there, supplied, taught there, and was also its vice principal and its last principal.
Yeah.
We're not clapping for the school closing. Boo! But once again, for your service. In addition, he was also the principal of Western Secondary School and Walkerville Collegiate, and vice principal of W.D. Lowe Secondary School. Clap for Lowe. He is married to his wife Linda for 37 years, and they make their home in Riverside. Please put your hands together for our featured storyteller, David Garlick.
Move my contraption out of the way.
Thanks very much, TJ. For those that don't know me or aren't familiar with my work, and there's a few of you, I hope you're not expecting sort of a tell-all, an expose of the system. There's virtually nothing negative in what I write. And if you hear me ever use the expression, kids these days, it's almost always a compliment. I think we have fabulous kids. Now, my books are collections of short stories that follow me from preschool to post-retirement. So they follow me from before I started school, grade school, high school, teachers college, started teaching, vice principal, principal, retired. I'm going to be reading 4 stories tonight from my grade school days, from, make sure I get these right, my vice principal days, and you're the first audience to hear this second story. No one's heard it except for my wife, and she's laughed both times I read it to her. So I'm hoping you're going to like it too. And then I've got a story that I think is relevant for today, given the situation in the world. And then my last story is a retirement story. So, and the first story is the longest of the bunch. Most of you haven't heard it yet. But this is the one that was long listed for the Lester Wrights Short Story Contest. It's called One of the Best Saturday Afternoons. I didn't ask Gord where or how he got it, but to be fair, we were 8 years old, and a far more important question was, what was he going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? I asked him. Use it, dummy. Use it? Yup. Just gotta wait for the right time. The object in question was a condom, still unopened in its little foil packet. And at 8 years of age, Gord was going to have to wait quite a while until the right time could even hope to come along. You know what those things are for, right? Yup. They're absolutely the best water balloons known to mankind.
Yes.
Now, for that purpose, we were the perfect age. and right times came along just about every weekend. 8-year-old boys need water balloons more than just about anyone else on earth. I just gotta wait until my parents and my stupid brother run around. My parents because of all the questions they'd ask, and my brother because, well, I found it at the bottom of his chest of drawers, and he'd probably want it back. So that was where and how he found it. Who are you gonna throw it at? Dunno. Here's the thing. He pointed at the packet. It says right here that it's extra strong so that it won't break. So if I make it the size of a softball, it probably won't break, and it'll be no different than throwing a heavy rubber ball at somebody. We're gonna have to make it super big, like a beach ball maybe, and then drop it from a tree or something. Maybe roll it down a hill at them. We were 8, and so not expert at strategy yet. Neither one of us thought about how we'd get it up into a tree or to the top of a hill. In fact, that's not what I was thinking at all. We're gonna have to make it super big, I asked. Until that moment, I wasn't involved. Well, you want to help, don't you? See the thing explode all over somebody, soaking them to the skin? Well, of course. Okay, well, we'll just have to wait for the perfect day. No parents around, no stupid brothers, warm, but say, wouldn't it be great if we could get old Miss Wakely with it? That'd be fabulous. But we have to get away with it. You know, not get caught or anything. We'd be heroes. Miss Wakely was our grade 3 teacher, and the closest thing either one of us had to an actual enemy. And not just us. Every single kid in class thought of her that way. Every single kid she'd ever taught, probably. If we could drop a beach ball-sized water balloon on Miss Wakely, we'd be written up in history books. They'd make movies about us. We'd probably be on the front page of the paper. At 8, we weren't only not very good at strategy, we weren't very good with reality either. Even if we could figure out how to get a beach ball-sized water balloon up into a tree and have Miss Wakely walk under it just at the right time, then somehow escape detection, how would we ever be able to take credit for it? Thereby getting into the history books and movies and the paper. But that was all still days away, as we had to wait for the right time. Gord showed it to me on the way to school on a Monday, I think, so he'd have to keep it, and neither one of us tell anybody about it for at least almost a whole week. Gord kept the thing in his pocket throughout the day and in his shoe at night. We told no one about our plan. That was easy, because we didn't really have a plan. But neither one of us told anyone that Gord was walking around for a week with a condom in his pocket. In spite of that, the whole thing almost fell apart in the most terrifying way. It involved the aforementioned enemy, Miss Wakely. For those that didn't go to school with Gord and me, Miss Wakely was both impossibly mean and impossibly old. We figured that she'd been teaching at the school from before it was built somehow, and that was in 1922. She seemed to delight in embarrassing us, and although she passed corporal punishments off to our principal, she could often think of other punishments that hurt somehow more than the 2 or 3 whacks on the rump with a strap, the bolo bat, or the yardstick that Mr. Baxter might deliver. Gord may have not told anyone about what he had stored in his pocket, but he couldn't stop thinking about it either. And every few minutes he had to check that it was still safely stored. Usually that meant just looking down to see that it wasn't going to fall onto the floor. But every few minutes it meant that he had to slide his butt forward in his desk and make sure the empty water balloon was pushed all the way to the bottom of his pocket. At 8, Gord was already beginning to exhibit the obsessive compulsiveness he developed more fully in high school. Mr. Thornton, stop whatever it is you're doing back there. Do you have ants in your pants? The class laughed when Miss Wakely barked this at Gord. No, ma'am. I'm sorry. Gord did his best to stop, but now he was especially concerned that it might fall to the floor. What if that happened when Miss Wakely was making her rounds, checking our work? So after only a few more minutes, Mr. Thornton, I've asked you several times now to stop that behavior. Come up here, young man. Gord walked to the front of the class where Miss Wakely sat, looking for all the world like a hanging judge in one of the television westerns we watched on Saturday mornings. Gord, like one of the defendants who would shortly be sentenced to the hangman's noose. I'm sorry, ma'am. I guess my pants are a bit itchy, but I don't think it's being caused by ants. Empty your pockets, young man. What? It's, pardon me? Not what? And you heard me. There's something in them that's causing all this. Empty them. No, ma'am. No, there's nothing in them. Then stop being difficult. Turn them out and prove it to us. Miss Wakely said us because now the whole class was focused on Gord and her. Being 8, Gord did what any 8-year-old would have done. He turned out the left pocket, hoping that would satisfy her. Now the other one. Gord made an admirable attempt to palm the thing, but to little avail. What's that in your hand, sir? Although sir was supposed to be a term of respect, when Miss Wakely used it, it always sounded like a condescending insult, on a par with pinhead or nitwit. Gord closed his eyes, gulped, and turned his hand over, showing Miss Wakely, but keeping it out of the view of the rest of the class. Miss Wakely looked shocked and disgusted at the same time. Not wishing to touch it, or subject the rest of us to whatever it was, she snapped, "Put that in your pocket and come with me." She took Gord by the top of his ear and walked him out of class and down the hall to the principal's office. I've reconstructed the conversation that then took place from what Gord told me afterward, along with my knowledge of what I would have done as a principal placed in that situation, although I never had to deal with a Miss Wakely when I was a principal. First though, this was the conversation that took place in class with Gord and Miss Wakely out of the room. Who said what isn't important? It was lightning quick and moved through the whole classroom. What did he have in his pocket? I don't know. I couldn't see. Marcia, could you see? No, and I was closest. None of us could see. I'll bet it was a knife. Nah, a bunch of us have knives. I gotta go to the bathroom. Hope she comes back soon. She's gotta know we got knives. A big bug then? Could be. Maybe a mouse? A dead one? That makes sense. Thornton's dead, that's for sure. In the principal's office, Miss Wakely was almost apoplectic. Mr. Baxter, you won't believe what this young man has in his pocket. You'll have to call his parents. They need to be notified. I'll leave things with you. I need to get back to my hellions before one of them burns the school down. We were quiet when Miss Wakely returned. We hadn't burned the school down, but knowing what Miss Wakely thought of us as a group, none of us asked what it was that Gord had in his pocket or what his fate had been. In fact, only Terence Holder was brave enough to put up his hand. Yes, Mr. Holder, what is it? May I go to the bathroom, please? I've really got to go. Well, Gordy, what is it that you've got in your pocket that's got Miss Wakely so worked up? Perhaps a hand grenade? Coded missive from a Soviet spy? No, sir. I really hope you won't call my parents. I'd really be in Dutch. Gord was trying his best not to cry. In the years since I retired, I've imagined at least a couple hundred times how I would have reacted, recalling the things I've actually seen pulled from teenagers' pockets and backpacks, remembering also that Gord was only 8. Gord, with a shaking hand and tears in his eyes, placed the condom, still in its packet, on Mr. Baxter's desk. Oh, I see. I hesitate to ask this, Gordy, but what were you planning on doing with that? In my mind's eye, I see Mr. Baxter biting his cheek to keep from laughing, Gord missing the twinkle in the principal's eyes. Dave Garlick and I were going to make the world's biggest water balloon. Honest, that's all. Ah, well now. I'm going to have to think about things for a bit. The consequence for you and Mr. Garlick, because he's involved in this as well, needs to be appropriate. You need to go back to class and think about things until the end of the day, all right? And apart from telling Miss Wakely that I said I will handle this matter as seriously as it demands, you are to talk to no one until the end of the day. No one. Is that understood, Mr. Thornton? Should I write it out for you? No, sir, I can remember. But can't I tell Dave he's in trouble too? No. I need you to promise me that you'll talk to no one, all right? Yes, sir. You'll handle this seriously. That's not what I said. Tell her I'll handle this as seriously as it demands. Please say those exact words, okay? Yes, sir. Please, though, don't call my parents. Gord talked to none of us upon his return to class. He told Miss Wakely that he was sent back to think about things, and that Mr. Baxter would handle things as seriously as the issue demanded. Gord's eyes were red, he was shaking, and most of us kids were certainly gotten the strap. The school day and the school week ended a little less than an hour later. 5 minutes before the end of the day, Gord and I were called down to the office. On the way, I asked him, "Did Mr. Baxter give you the strap? Are we going to get the strap? Shoot, what did you tell him? Are our parents going to be told? Are they there waiting for us? I didn't even do anything." Although near tears, Gord said nothing, as he promised. When we got to the office, I was relieved that neither Gord's parents nor mine were waiting for us. "Close the door, please, Mr. Garlick. Did Gordon tell you anything on the way here?" Mr. Baxter rarely sounded as severe as he did at that moment. No, sir. And I didn't do anything. I don't want to get the strap. I've never gotten the strap. Please, I didn't do anything. Please, sit down, the both of you. Gord, it looks like you can keep a secret. Can you? Can you keep one for a little bit longer? Maybe a few weeks? Maybe forever? I don't know, sir. I'd have to know the secret, I guess. True. And spoken honestly. I like that. I think you can be trusted. Can you be trusted too, David? Yes, sir. Mr. Baxter's demeanor changed the moment I told him I could be trusted. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his chin as though considering weighty issues. After a few seconds of this, he smiled and said, "Oh, what the heck. Okay. I owe you an apology, Gord. I didn't need any time to figure out what I was going to do. I needed you to look a little scared when you got back to class. I need Miss Wakely to think I'm calling your parents so she doesn't call them. Here's the thing. In a little while, you'll both tell your parents about your water balloon. It's too delicious a story to not tell. You don't believe me now, but I'm right. Here's all I want you to promise me. I need you to promise me that you won't create your water balloon here at school, and that you won't do it during school hours, okay? If you can promise me that, and that you'll tell me one day how it all turns out, that'll be your consequence, okay? That, and you don't ever tell Miss Wakely, or anyone who will tell Miss Wakely. She's retiring at the end of the year in a little less than a month, and I want her to retire thinking she got 2 more kids in trouble with their parents. Somehow I think that's the best gift I can give her as she leaves teaching. It's what she wants anyway." Then, having said all that, Mr. Baxter handed the condom back to Gord. As often happens when you're 8, the perfect day arrived the very next day. Gord's parents went grocery shopping, and both our older brothers were gone on a weekend Boy Scout camp. "Don't you kids go getting into any trouble while we're gone, all right? Don't burn down the house or sell all the furniture." Gord's dad told us that. I'd brought my wagon to Gord's house. After Gord's parents had driven off, I said, "If we fill it up in the wagon, at least we'll be able to drag the thing to the top of a hill." We'd given up on the idea of dropping it on Miss Wakely, mostly because we couldn't figure out how to get the thing up in a tree in the first place. That, and I was afraid we'd actually kill the old lady by crushing her to death. While we agreed that Miss Wakely dying wouldn't be a tragedy or anything, we didn't want to go to jail for the rest of our lives to make it happen. Plus, we promised Mr. Baxter we'd tell him, and confessing to murder to our principal didn't seem appropriate. Anyway, Gord's outside tap was only a couple feet from the ground, and with my wagon underneath it, the bottom of the balloon would be resting in the wagon long before it was the size of a beach ball. We soon realized that a beach ball-sized balloon was actually pretty conservative once we started filling the thing. "What do you suppose the world record for a water balloon is?" let's see if we can make the Guinness Book of World Records, okay? So we just kept filling the thing. How much do you suppose it weighs now? Dunno, a couple thousand pounds? By this time, the thing pretty much filled the bed of the wagon. While a couple thousand pounds was an exaggeration, the balloon was certainly the largest balloon either of us had ever seen, and we were pretty confident it was the largest one in the world. Maybe we should tie the thing off, eh? How are we ever going to throw it? Just a little bit more. And then the thing exploded. Water everywhere. Gord and I were soaked, head to toe. After the initial shock was over, just a second or two, we started laughing like the two 8-year-olds we were. We laughed and laughed, doubled over, hard to breathe or talk laughter. It was one of the best Saturday mornings of our lives. When Gord's parents got home, they asked about all the water in the driveway. We explained that we'd had a water balloon fight and we both won. They accepted our story but told us we should change into some dry clothes before we caught our deaths. For weeks afterward, we told each other the story, exaggerating the size and weight of the balloon. And although it made us laugh each time we thought or spoke about it, we didn't tell any other kids what we'd done. Mr. Baxter was right though. We told our parents before the summer was over, separately over dinner, adding the minor lie that we'd found the condom on the street. Our families thought the story was hilarious. Gord told his brother, Gerald, the truth about finding it at the bottom of his chest of drawers, but told him late one evening. Like my brother and me, Gord and Gerald shared a bedroom. Gerald laughed until his father called to him from the front room to be quiet and go to sleep. Gord and I made a point of telling Mr. Baxter on a Saturday near the end of the summer. He was in the back field of the school, hitting plastic practice balls with a golf club. Hey men, how goes the summer? Fine, sir. Gord and I have a business cutting lawns, and we've each made $20 so far. Good for you. But don't forget to have some fun too, okay? You only get to be a kid for a short while, and don't waste any of that time being an adult. Kid time is precious. Don't give it away, and don't let anyone take it from you. No, sir. Oh, you were right about us telling our parents about the water balloon exploit. That's what my mother calls it, the water balloon exploit. They laughed and laughed about it, not as hard as we did, but pretty hard. Do you want to hear? Gentlemen, that sounds like about the best thing I could do this afternoon. Let me put away my golf clubs and let's reconvene at Scott's Dairy Bar in, let's say, 10 minutes, and I'll buy us each a chocolate milkshake. And you can tell me all about it. Is that an appropriate consequence for hiding an empty water balloon in your pocket at school? Thank you. This next story is almost completely true. Just the minor modifications, but it's almost completely true. It's called Lauren Bacall and the Cotton Swab. There are a lot of morals to this story. The simplest of them are, don't stick things in your ears, and honesty is probably the best policy. There are a lot more though. See how many you can come up with. When Lori Schofield, who was my attendance secretary, has a cold or sore throat, she sounds just like Lauren Bacall. I love that about her. So when she had a cold and I was vice principal at W.D. Lowe, even Dave, Hassan's been late 5 times this month. Even that sounded sexy. I couldn't always understand what she was saying to me, but whatever it was, sounded sexy. Occasionally, I suffer from something I'll call itchy ear. Maybe you do too. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and one of my ears is itchy. My baby finger helps, but often it's not enough. Being a bit of a hypochondriac, I worry that just about anything can be causing it at 3 in the morning. Earwax, tiny spider, ear cancer, other things. I never wake Linda up to look into my ear. Instead, I get up as quietly as I can, go to the bathroom, try my baby finger again, and when that doesn't work, I pick up the box of cotton swabs, read the warning on the label that clearly says not to do what I'm about to do. I choose the puffiest one I can see, and I stick it in my ear. This particular early morning, when I pulled the cotton swab from my ear, all I saw was the bare stick that had once held the puffy cotton ball. The cotton ball was left behind deep in my ear, and though I no longer had itchy ear, I knew I'd have to call the doctor in the morning. I didn't tell Linda in the morning. I didn't want to hear her tell me I shouldn't stick things in my ears. I told Lori Schofield I was having a bit of trouble hearing that morning. My ears felt plugged, I said. I didn't tell her that one was plugged with a tiny cotton ball. I didn't tell anyone at school. Lori's a little younger than I am, so most of my conditions were things she assumed were related to me getting older. So clearly, I was beginning to experience age-related hearing loss. Anyway, when I called that morning, I told the doctor's receptionist what I'd done, so I had to listen to her tell me not to stick things in my ears, but then she asked me if I could come in at 1 o'clock. That morning, Lori told all the kids I saw in my office that I was getting older and they should talk a bit louder when they spoke with me in the office. She thought that was pretty funny. When she spoke with me on the intercom that morning, telling me Jeremy needed to speak with me, or Farah needed me to sign something for her, or could I go see Ms. Zam because she was upset about something, I told her how much I liked her voice when she had a cold, because she sounded just like Lauren Bacall. Often that morning, I asked her to repeat what she just said, partly for the joke, partly because I wanted to hear her talk a little bit more, and partly because I really didn't hear what she'd said the first time. She told Rick, our day custodian, that I thought she sounded like Lauren Bacall, and when he heard her speak that morning, he agreed. So Rick found himself in the office more often that morning, and thought out loud, you know what? The office floor outside Dave's office and over to your desk, it needs to be mopped this morning. Salt stains from kids' muddy boots, don't you know? Dave, be careful when you step into the hall for a bit, okay? The floor might be a little bit slippery. Lauren Bacall said that to me outside my door. Pardon me? I asked. Very funny, she answered. Apart from the impending doctor's visit, it was really a pretty normal morning. The only thing I've neglected to mention about the day is that staff had a potluck lunch that morning. Exams were going on, the semester was just about over, and they decided to have a sort of celebratory lunch. You might not believe this, but I never knew when lunch started. Ever. I depended on the bells to tell me. This was true at every school I worked in. I knew roughly when lunch started, but I almost never ate lunch at the same time as the teachers and the kids. That was always a busy time for me. I monitored the halls and the cafeteria. I walked through the neighborhood. I looked for kids smoking where they shouldn't be. I looked for kids smoking what they shouldn't be. All that kind of stuff. For me, lunch, when I ate it at all, was after the kids had left at the end of the day. 3, 4, or 5 o'clock. Exam weeks were different though. Bells were turned off, kids weren't hanging around the school in great numbers. Generally, things were much calmer than usual. At 11:30, when the staff luncheon started, Lori wanted me to have lunch for a change. If I went upstairs then, I could have a relaxing lunch, laugh with the staff, and still have time to get to the doctor's office. She picked up her phone to call me, and Lauren Bacall said, Dave, you've got to get upstairs. There's so much food. That's what she actually said. What I heard Lauren Bacall say was, Dave, you've got to get upstairs. There's so much blood. I didn't ask her to repeat herself. I knew exactly what was happening. There was a fight outside the cafeteria. Punches were being thrown. Noses were being broken. Dave Garlick needed to break this all up before someone really got hurt. I raced from my carpeted office, hit the wet and newly mopped floor in the hall, and slid at close to top speed into the door frame leading to the main hall. My head striking the metal frame made the most satisfying deep thung sound. 30 seconds later, my principal, Elver Peruzzo, and Lori were talking to me and each other in the hall. I was sitting on the floor. Elver and Lori were crouched in front of me. "What happened?" Elver asked us. "I don't know," Lori answered. "I reminded Dave about lunch, and he flew out of the office. A couple kids came and got me. They said Mr. Garlick hit his head really hard against the door." "Is the fight over?" I asked. "What fight?" Elver and Lori answered. "The fight in the cafeteria," I answered. Elver and Lori were certain I suffered a concussion. I wasn't making any sense. "He's not making any sense. He needs to see a doctor," Elver said. "He is seeing a doctor," Lori answered. "He's already got an appointment." "You are the best secretary," Elver said. "You've already got him an appointment?" "No, he made the appointment this morning." They wouldn't let me drive myself that afternoon. Linda was called. She came and picked me up, driving me to the doctor's office. He told me I'd probably suffered a minor concussion and I should stay home from work the next day and relax. The next day was a Saturday. There was nothing in my ear, by the way. The doctor figured I'd knocked the cotton ball out of it when I smacked my head. As I went to leave the office, he said, "Dave, next time, don't stick anything in your ears." I haven't been monitoring the time. How much time do I have, Teach?
All you need.
All you
15
need.
minutes? 10, 15
Okay,
minutes?
2 stories. Both are short. This next one isn't typical. It comes from my second book, Principal Chronicles 222 as well. Given the world situation, I think this is a pretty relevant story, maybe even a little bit important. It's called They've Already Won. I have a confession. It won't surprise my friends, but it may surprise a few teachers and students. I'm not much of a sports guy. I like golf. I'm pretty good at badminton. I used to ski. I own a baseball glove. After I retired, I picked up pickleball. I'll watch the occasional baseball or football game on TV, but that's about it. When I was working, though, I always tried to get out and watch a few games of whatever the kids were playing throughout the year. Boys and girls didn't make a difference. I'd sit in the stands with their parents, and I'd yell and scream with the best of them. Afterwards, I'd give the kids high fives and good on yous. I'd make an announcement the next day. At Low Secondary School, I actually coached the badminton team for 6 years. So kids might be surprised to find out that I'm not really much of a sports guy. Despite that, this is one of my favorite stories. "Mr. Garlick? The game, it will start soon. Remember? You said you're trying to watch it this week," said Bouillard, smiling at my office door. Bouillard was a tall, thin, dark-haired, dark-eyed student in our school's English language learner program. He was 16 years old. He'd been in Canada for a little less than a year, and like many of the students from Kosovo in our school, he'd struggled on arrival, both to Canada and John L. Forster Secondary School. Initially, he didn't seem to get the idea that he was supposed to be at school 5 days a week, at the same time each day. He also seemed to enjoy getting in the occasional fight and showing off his newly acquired knowledge of words you're not supposed to say at school. He'd been in my vice principal's office more than a few times, and I'd met both his parents more than once. He'd been sent home a few times, never seeming to mind the consequence when it happened. Then he found out we had a soccer team. "Bouillard, if you want to play on our team, you have to be at school every day. You can't get into any trouble with me, and I need your teachers to tell me that you're working hard in class." "But I'm really good at football or soccer. I play, we win." I leaned forward in my desk and lowered my voice to a whisper. "Let me tell you a secret, Bouillard, but you can't tell anyone. I looked to my left and my right, making a show of the fact that we were alone in my office. I leaned forward even more. I don't care. I don't care if we win or lose. I don't even care if we have a team. If the players aren't also good students, they won't play, and I'll kick them off the team. Bueller looked shocked, but he saw that I was telling the truth, and he knew that I was a man of my word. And so Bueller became a good student. Not overnight, but pretty quickly. He made the team, became a leader, and a true leader, both on and off the field. I saw him in the halls telling other players to get to class. I saw him break up and almost fight before it could get going. What's the matter with you? You want soccer canceled? You want cut from team? Jesu Christu, grow up! I think the Jesu Christu was for my benefit because Bueller was a Muslim. When the soccer coach brought me the list of kids who'd made the team, I was surprised to see that I knew most of them. I was the VP, and the kids I knew were kids who were in my office often enough for me to know them. But when I checked through each of their records, I was surprised to find out that to a kid, they'd not been in any trouble for weeks, and had excellent attendance, and their teachers all noted improvement in both effort and marks. I thought, maybe sports are more important than I give them credit for. So when Bueller came to my office after school, of his own volition, not sent by any teacher, to ask me if I'd come to one of their games, I was happy to say yes. We're good, sir. I think we have a chance to be city champions. Good on you, Bueller. I'm proud of you. And not only because you made the team, and the team is good, I'm proud of the leader you've become, and I'm proud of all your teammates. They've all become good students. Thanks. Bueller flashed me a winning smile and said, our next game is tomorrow, 4 o'clock, across the street. See you then? I wouldn't miss it. See you tomorrow. The next afternoon, after being reminded by Bueller, I made my way across the street to watch the game. We had no stands next to the field. The parents and kids who came to watch either stood or brought their own folding chairs. Bueller's parents were there. They waved me over and I stood behind them. I'd missed the first 10 minutes of the game, and Forster was behind 1-0. Bueller's father's English was better than his son's and everyone else in the family. The boys are playing well. They make a good team. They'll get their chances. I think they'll win. I don't doubt it, I responded. Your son's a fine young man, sir. Proud to know him. I forget why, but about 10 minutes after I got there, the opposing team called a timeout, and our boys raced over to the sidelines to get advice from the coach. I took a good look at the boys who made up the team, and realizing for the first time exactly what I was witnessing, tears started rolling down my cheeks, caught for a moment by the corners of my smile. Bueller's father had no way of knowing why I was crying, this silly, smiling man in a suit. He guessed, but he guessed incorrectly. No one is hurt, Mr. Garlick. Nothing bad has happened. There's a lot of time. Our boys, they will win. The boys were huddled in a circle around the coach, who was on one knee among them. They were listening intently, arms around each other's shoulders, this team of young men, boys really, who were playing so well together. They were from Kosovo, Serbia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Somalia, Ethiopia, and the Sudan. Their home countries were all at war, some with each other. These boys were all of an age when they would soon be called up for military service if they were still in their home countries, as enemies, perhaps trying to kill each other. But here, they were friends, playing soccer as a team, as boys that age should be doing. I shook my head as the tears continued to roll down my cheeks. I looked at Bueller's father and smiled. Now, wiping the tears from my eyes. No, sir. You're wrong. Those boys, they've already won. So, thanks. Oh, thank you. I've got one more short story. It sort of put things back on the track that I like. This is a story from my retirement. It's called The Cost of Being a Good Neighbor. For God's sake, David, please just call a taxi at the start this time. We don't want to repeat the last episode, okay? Do we? Enough time had passed that we could both laugh about it, so we did. We laughed. But it had taken me a long time to live it down, and it took Linda a huge number of eye rolls and exasperated sighs until she too could laugh at it and see it as just one more episode in a long line of episodes that had caused exasperated sighs and eye rolls. You'd think she'd have learned by then. But I will call a cab this time. Carlton is an older gentleman who lives up the street. He's 83 now, but was a spry middle-aged 53 when we moved in. He was one of the first people to welcome us to the neighborhood when we moved in 30 years ago. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call. I have most of the tools you'll ever need, and anything Helen doesn't know about food and recipes and gardening isn't worth knowing about. Please, just give us a call. So over the years we did. Helen always had an extra cup of flour, knew what to substitute for an egg in a pumpkin loaf recipe, and what was probably causing the spots on our cucumber vines. Carlton not only had the extension ladder I needed, he was halfway up the street with it by the time I met him to borrow it from him. "What are we fixing today?" he'd ask, and then he'd watch me clean out the eaves troughs, just to make sure I didn't fall and kill myself. I guess in some ways, Linda and I have become one of the neighborhood's new Carltons and Helens. If you need some help, a tool, or advice about a recipe, you can usually depend on Dave and Linda, if you live on our street or one or two over. Helen passed away 6 years ago, so we look in on Carlton a bit more than we did before, but he's doing okay. At 83, he doesn't carry the extension ladder to a neighbor's house, but he'll still loan it out. Lately, he's taken to giving a tool away if it's borrowed. You've got more use for it than I do. Keep it oiled and it'll last you at least as long as I've had it, okay? I only ask that you let me use it if I need it, and that you let anyone else use it if they need it too, okay? He wants to be of use to us all. He wants to feel useful. So 2 years ago, that's how long it's taken for Linda and me to both see the humor in it, and for Linda to not roll her eyes when I needed a ride to the train station at 7:30 in the morning. Carlton was the first person I called. I gave him 2 weeks' notice, too. "Carlton, can I impose on you to drive me to the train station 2 Friday mornings from now, on September the 12th? Linda's visiting her cousin in Hamilton, and I've got a meeting with a publisher in Toronto." "Sure thing, Dave. Happy to. Round 7 o'clock? "Nope. 7:30. Train leaves at 8. That gives us a half-hour leeway." "Perfect. I'll put it in my calendar straight away. Helen was always on about me being scatterbrained, so I'm trying to spend my widowerhood proving her wrong. Haven't developed old-timers yet. I'll pick you up Friday morning at 7:30. 2 Fridays from now. 2, right. 7:30. I kissed Linda goodbye the first Friday after my conversation with Carlton at 6:30 in the morning. She wanted to get an early start, and so I was up with her early to help her load the car and to cook her a good breakfast before she got on the road. Although she was only going to be at her cousin's for a week, we'd had to have the discussion about which luggage she should take, which again, as usual, meant that I'd pulled all the luggage out of the closet for her to choose from. One of the first things I'd do that Friday was put away all the luggage that I wouldn't be needing until the next Friday, when Carlton was supposed to pick me up. "I'm here in your driveway. Sorry I'm a bit early, but at least you're not being driven by someone with dementia." This was a text, and it was all in capital letters. And it was received at 7 o'clock, a half hour plus 1 full week early. I should have either responded to Carlton that he was off by a week or gone out front to explain that to him. But in my mind, I saw this 81-year-old man getting out of his bed at 5, cooking himself an egg with a piece of toast, climbing into his shower, shaving, and then getting dressed and driving up to my house, proud at not forgetting and being of use to someone who needed him. So I grabbed one of the pieces of luggage, chosen at random and empty, and rushed out the back door to greet him in the driveway. Thanks, Carlton. Knew I could count on you. Yes, sirree. That all the luggage you're taking? Yep. Just staying the one night. Then Carlton drove me to the train station. To fend off the question I knew was coming, I had to add this lie. Elver's picking me up tomorrow. Thought I'd ask the old boss to help me out too. Elver's a good man. Yes, he is. Bit forgetful though. Hope you don't mind me saying. I need to remind him about garbage night at least 3 or 4 times a year. You sure he'll be there tomorrow? I'm sure. We talked about it just last week. Okay. When Carlton dropped me off, I walked into the train station just like I was going to the next Friday. Carlton honked and waved and drove off. I waited for him to drive out of sight before I walked straight through the station and took one of the 8 or 10 cabs that was just dropping the travelers off for their trips to Toronto or Kingston or Montreal. Carlton lives about 10 houses away from me, so there was very little chance he would see me being dropped off. $15 plus a $5 tip. $20 was a fair price to preserve an old friend's dignity, I thought. But later that day, when I was sitting in our back room, kind of hiding from Carlton should he walk past my house, I received a text. Hey Dave, I just spoke to Elver and he completely forgot about your trip to Toronto. He's made other plans. He and Heidi are going to their son's place in Kitchener, so I told him not to worry. We all forget things sometimes, and that I'll pick you up instead. Shoot, I thought. Now what do I do? Do I call Elver? Bring him into my confidence? Ask him to pretend that he forgot he didn't forget? What if he doesn't agree with what I did and thinks the best course of action is just to tell Carlton the truth? What if he agrees with what I did and then messes up his performance so that Carlton knows something's up? Elver is pretty much honest to a fault. Asking him to lie, even to save Carlton's pride, might not go so well. And he's not even a very good actor. No, don't involve Elver. Then I received this text from Elver. Sorry, Dave. I don't remember you asking me to pick you up tomorrow. I've been on overload, and that conversation's just gone. I made plans with Brian. I'm out of town. Carlton says he'll pick you up instead. Is there anyone else I can ask? Carlton won't check with Elver to see when he texted me on. Maybe I can tell him Elver let me know when I asked my brother? A friend Carlton wouldn't know? An old colleague? No. The easiest thing to do, apart from telling Carlton the truth, which never really entered my mind, would be to drive myself to the train station the next morning, park my car, say at the Tim Hortons so Carlton wouldn't see it, and let him pick me up and drive me home. That's what I did. The Tim's was pretty busy at 10:30, but I was able to find a parking spot and then walk the block to the train station. I was proud of myself for remembering to bring the same piece of empty luggage. When I got to the station, I hid myself in the bathroom in case Carlton came into the station to pick me up. That'd be just like him. Dave, I called the station, so don't worry. I know that the train's going to be an hour or so late. I'll be there at noon to get you. Well, at least I wouldn't have to hide in the bathroom the whole time. I walked back to Tim Hortons, had a coffee and a breakfast sandwich, and then made my way back to the train station in time for Carlton to pick me up. I had a great but completely made-up conversation with him on the way home. I didn't think I'd be going with that publisher. I'd wait for a better deal. Had he noticed the tow truck take my car away the day before? I guessed it needed a new alternator. I was proud of myself for thinking that lie up before we got home. Where was my car? I could hear him asking. No, I didn't need a ride to the mechanics. They were going to check things out by driving it to my place. I thanked him for the rides, both to and from the train station. I told him it was good for the neighborhood to have a Carlton, and then went into the house after shaking his hand. I had a small lunch, took my bicycle out of the shed, pumped up the tires, and then rode to the Tim Hortons, not far from the train station, to pick up my car, which, of course, was gone. We're sorry, sir. We have a strict policy about the time a car can be in our parking lot. Can you imagine how many people would just leave their cars here all day and all night if we didn't? Here's the address of the place it was towed to. When I got home and put my bicycle away, I called Dave Black, my neighbor from down the street. He found all of this hilarious, and of course, he'd give me a ride to the Wreckers. He could have just called me in the first place. Yes, but I would have called Carlton too, Dave admitted. The Wrecker charged me $75 for the tow. Add in the taxi from the day before and the breakfast at Tim's, and the whole episode only cost me about $100. And 2 years of sighs and eye rolls from my wife. Thank you. Thanks. As I said, both books that are published, they follow me from about 4 until I was now. So every element of my career. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you don't have any questions, I have books to. So TJ already thanked Cafe Amore, but I want to thank TJ because this was a wonderful experience. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. And friends, once again, that is a blaze of story. Put your hands together one more time for Dave Lee. Keep your hands going for yourself, for the cafe, for the kitchen, and for storytelling.